to honor the feminine aspect of God, right? Today's reading comes from 10 Lessons in Woman Awareness, a book written by our own Reverend Ann Meyer McKeever, and also available for purchase. The reading comes from page 80, lesson 10, Woman, the Expression of Love. Love is a word most difficult to define, for each individual has a different concept of love, and none of us really completely understands what love is. I think that perhaps the most loving of us is still only a beginner in the expression of love. For love is as comprehensive as the universal God itself. It is obvious that love cannot be comprehended by the intellect alone, but must be known through feeling, which is knowing at the subconscious level. When the feeling nature is aware of and responds to an idea, that idea manifests itself in our outer experience. It follows then that if we desire to express love more fully in our lives, we must impress the subconscious mind or the feeling nature with the love ideas. All right, today's speaker is just a leader by nature. It's just what she does. She's been a business person in a role of leadership, and she is a minister here in a role of leadership. She teaches classes online. That's her role of leadership. And she's a good person too. So let's welcome Reverend Marianne Kelley speaking, honoring the feminine aspect of God.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
The feminine aspect of God. What is that? Do you think? It was in meditation before service today, and it came to me that expressing the feminine nature of God is within all of us. And when we have someone come up and straighten our collar, tuck in the tags, they're expressing their wonderful feminine nature of God, their mothering nature. When you stop and think about it, the month of mothers, we heard about Mother Earth this morning in our song, and in a week or so we'll celebrate the mothers that we have. We'll love them. We'll show them, great gifts. Shower them with candy and roses and whatever we think that they might like, and spend time with them, whether in person or on the phone or on Skype. I know that my mother thinks that Skype is probably a miracle. She does. She says it's a miracle because she gets to see all of her children, even though they're not in the room. She just loves that. And my mother kind of personifies for me the goddess that we all are and we all have within us. Regardless of our gender, we still have the goddess within us, and she is a part of us. She comes by many names. I was looking in the Bible for a little inspiration on this today, and in Genesis we have, then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and then let them have dominion over the fishes of the sea, and the birds of the air, and the cattle, and all over the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So the God created man in his own image. Male and female, he created them. So there you have it. We are all of us, within each of us, there is the masculine and the feminine, the male and the female. And then in Proverbs, this is kind of fun. Proverbs 1:20 through 23, we have wisdom as the feminine, and wisdom as the feminine part of God. And in the Greek word for wisdom is Sophia. So we have the Sophia of the Christ. We've heard of that. We've heard of the Sophia of God. Wisdom calls out aloud. She raises her voice in the open squares. She cries out in the chief concourses. At the opening of the gate in the city, she speaks her words. How long, ye simple ones, will ye speak simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn at my reproof. Surely I will pour out my spirit to you, and I will make my words known to you. Then we go to Proverbs 2:10 through 13. Then wisdom enters your heart, or when wisdom enters your heart, and knowledge is pleasant to your soul. Discretion will preserve you. Understanding will keep you, to deliver you from the ways of evil. For the man who speaks perverse things, from those who leave the path of uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness. And then in Proverbs 3:13 through 18, we find, happy is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding. For her proceeds are better than the profits of silver, and her gain more fine than gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all things you may desire cannot compare to her. Length of days is her right hand, and her left is riches and honor, and her ways are always ways of pleasantness, and all of her paths are peace. She is the tree of life to those who take hold of her, and happy are those who retain her. So, there we find her in Proverbs as wisdom. Then we find her again in the Shekinah, the feminine aspect of God associated with Judaism from its conception. So Shekinah has been there from the conception of the Judaism. She plays an important part in various forms, then into the present actually. The goddess is best known as Shekinah, the Talmudic term describing the God's presence on earth. In the Kabbalistic tradition, she is the indwelling one. She is the goddess within. So as we learn in inner sensitivity, we are both male and female. We have masculine and feminine tendencies. And in meditation we connect with these. We connect with them all the time. Well, all the time. Actually, we're all the time connected with them, we just don't always realize it. So, I think of my mother, and when I think of her as the goddess that I knew growing up, because she was everything to me. I was her firstborn, so I got to be that one who was there before the rest. And I remember her helping me. I don't quite remember her helping me learn to walk, but I remember her teaching me other lessons. And I remember when we got the measles, and I was about 7 years old at the time. And when one of us brought home the measles, we all got them.
Ooh.
And at that time, there were probably 4 of us. And so she had 4 kids with measles. And yet I remember, it was very warm and I was itchy, and I remember her rubbing that calamine lotion all over us to ease that itchiness. And I remember her mopping my brow with the cold washcloths to bring down the fever. And I remember the soup that she brought us, and the toast with butter and honey on it.
Oh, yummy.
And I remember those things as the goddess taking care of me. I remember falling off of my bicycle with skinned knees, and I remember the Band-Aids. I remember the kisses that made it better. All of these are the goddess within, expressing herself to each of us. And then I remember receiving my God Zeph Bali. And I remember at first it felt very warm and loving and kind. And then I found out that in class, or it seemed as though in class, that my God Self was supposed to be male, but it didn't feel like a male. It felt like a loving, compassionate woman to me. And then along came Konar, who kind of sort of merged with Bali. So now I have Konar Bali, Bali Konar, the masculine and the feminine that helped me express into life. And so, then we have Aya, the beautiful feminine Holy Spirit in the New Age. Aya, what a beautiful name. And she comes and helps and guides us and shows us the way. And she is the feminine aspect. Here's a little story for you. There was a man who went into a flower shop, and he was ordering 24 roses for his mother to be sent to her. She lived 300 miles away. And so he took care of that, and paid the bill, went outside, he started to get into his car. But at the curb he saw this little girl, and she was crying. And so he walked over and he says, "What's wrong, little one?" And she said, "I wanted to get a flower for my mother, but they cost $2 and I only have one." And he said, "Come with me, come on, let's go get one. I'll get you." And so he took her into the flower shop and he told her to pick the one she wanted. So she picked the one she wanted, and of course he paid for it. And as they were leaving, he said, "Do you need a ride somewhere?" And she says, "Yes, I could use a ride." So he took her to where her mother was. She was in the cemetery. The little girl took her rose and she took it over to a freshly dug and filled in grave, a mound of dirt, and she laid it there. And she said her prayer. And the man's eyes filled with tears as he took her back to her home. He went back to the flower shop, got his money back, or he didn't get his money back, he got the flowers. And he took them, he drove the 300 miles to be with his mother, because he realized that he would not have her all the time.
Yeah.
So it's important for us. The goddess is our mother, and it is in our mother, both etheric and earthly. So be sure to take care of your mother. So we need to love our mother, the one within and the one out here, the one we can hug, those of us who still have our mother. And remember that we're all mothers, because all of us at some time in our life have tucked in somebody's tag, have straightened somebody's collar, have served somebody a meal. All of us are this divine mother, this divine thing. And so, remember this: always trust your inner goddess, because she is who you are. Remember, she has many forms. In our lifetime, we've seen her as Mother Teresa. We've seen her as, let's see, there's a Mother Teresa, there's a Anasura Devi. She's a God realized, she was realized from birth, and she's a Hindu. We have in our lifetime, I think she's a goddess now, Anne Meyer McKeever. She's one we know. But there are lots of them out there. And all of them are sitting in this room, some of them. Some of them are sitting in this room. Look around you, see the goddess. She's here. She is our divine purpose. She is who we are. And so, as we bless our divine goddess, as we bless that which we know is within us, be sure to bless that is without us too, on the outside. There's our sweet goddess. Thank you, wonderful goddess within us all. And so it is, and so let it be. And shall we say? Amen. Thank you, God.
Whoa, huh, Mother. Ah. Ah. Thank you so much, Reverend Marion Kelley. Now it is the